Good evening, everybody. We are about ready to begin the Board of Education meeting on October 3rd. We just completed our executive session in the superintendent's office, which began around 6 p.m. at Gray Street here in West Caldwell. The purpose of that meeting was to discuss personnel, litigation, miscellaneous, and old business matters. The meeting had been advertised and was compliant with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4-6, which is also known as the Sunshine Law. The matters discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required, and formal action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a meeting to which the public has been invited. We are now ready to begin our public session at approximately 7:05 p.m. We are meeting here in Harrison Conference Room on Gray Street, and we also live streaming. The Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education public conference meeting is compliant with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4, also known as Sunshine Law. Notices have been sent to the Progress Caldwell, New Jersey, Star Ledger Newark, Tap Into West Essex, and has also been posted at the Board of Education Business Office at the Harrison School Building at 104 Gray Street here in West Caldwell, and have been delivered to both clerks of Caldwell and West Caldwell for posting. Brian, can I ask you to take the roll, please?
Yes. Student Representative Claire Kiernan.
Here.
Mr. Diambola.
Here.
Mr. Elko.
Here.
Ms. Getty.
Here.
Ms. Grosso.
Here.
Mr. Cipoletti.
Here.
All right, so 5-0, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brian, do we have any communications to share?
None.
Thank you. Dr. Conklin, Superintendent's report.
Yes, I'd like to invite up John Trafford and Jeremy Rodriguez, 8th graders. John is from the House of Integrity and Jeremy is from the House of Endurance. If they could give us an update on what's happening at the middle school. That'd be great.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jeremy Rodriguez. I'm a House Leader for the House of Endurance.
My name is John Trafford, and I'm the House Leader for the House of Integrity.
And we are here to inform all of you about how the 2022 to 2023 school year is going at GCMS so far.
We started off this year with door decorations and 6th grade orientations. Both went great, and I believe the 6th graders are already having a great time and are adapting to the new school quickly. Learning to use their lockers has been the biggest challenge, but I think they are getting the hang of it.
Within the first 2 weeks of the school year, we announced the houses that all the new 6th graders will be put into. This event was called Sorting Day. To achieve this, all the house leaders gathered their houses on the blacktop and cheered the new 6th graders in. We followed that up with a round of musical chairs that we, the house leaders, participated in. It was a great way to end the week. Everyone left excited for the upcoming house events in the new year.
So far this school year, GCMS had 2 days of standardized testing. Last week, we completed the Start Strong testing, which included a language arts and math section. Today, we completed the first day of Linkit testing. Today, we had to complete a 35-question language arts test, and tomorrow, their subject will be math.
Next month, GCMS will also run a basketball tournament, which we call Hoopapalooza. Everyone who is participating is very excited and can't wait to get a chance to compete against their friends and potentially the teachers in a friendly game of basketball. This basketball tournament will allow its players to earn and score points for their houses.
Today in school, we asked what students think about this school year so far. A lot of the students in 8th grade believe this school year has been a lot of work, but definitely more goods than bads. We also got some voices saying how the GCMS staff is likable and fun to be with. Some students pointed out how the teachers care and really want the students to succeed.
This is the Week of Respect at Grover Cleveland Middle School. It is an opportunity to focus on building and supporting a positive school climate for the students, staff, and our school community. Each day will be a different theme for the students to participate in. We will also discuss understanding respect and diversity during our October 12th advisory. Our first week's advisory covered executive functioning and accountability. Thank you, Dr. Conklin and the entire board for allowing us to give a report of how the school year is going.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Does anyone have any questions?
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kiernan, I'm sorry you have to follow that, but you have to follow that. But
It's all
I asked Ms. Kiernan to give us a summary of the Week of Respect and all the cool stuff, and pardon me if that's not a word you're supposed to use anymore, but cool stuff that's going around the school, so thank you.
Yeah, so as the boys said, this week is the Week of Respect, and there's a bunch of different days going on in the schools. All of the schools have different days that they're using to celebrate. So I picked a couple from the different lists to try to give you like an idea of how they're gonna celebrate the Week of Respect. One of the days is dress in yellow for unity, pajamas to put bullying to rest, hippie day to spread peace and love, and mismatch day to remember to celebrate everyone's differences. And another thing that I really like about this week is they're also giving out random like challenges throughout the week. So each day has a different challenge that might include like giving a compliment to a classmate or doing a random act of kindness. And this is kind of similar to the Anti-Violence Week that the Student Council at the high school is putting on from October 17th to the 21st. We're promoting school safety and taking violence out of the classroom. And we'll have different messages throughout the week to remind students to consider the week of anti-violence. And at the end, they'll all dress in orange to, again, represent unity. As for the school year so far, we've had a pretty busy one, definitely for the Student Council. We started off the first week of school with a Spirit Week that we all organized, and then it ended with an outdoor pep rally, which had a bunch of different games and prizes that I think students really enjoyed, especially because they got a break from class. We also had a One Book, One School presentation. Over the summer, all grades in the high school had to read How to Be a Good Creature by Cy Montgomery. And then we each had an assembly with Cy herself, where she talked about like her adventures and what she learned while she was exploring the world, and how she found teachers and unlikely beings like animals, which was her focus. And the student government also has a summit coming up in October where we'll get together with a bunch of different student governments from different towns, neighboring towns, and it'll be hosted at James Caldwell High School, and we'll be able to share ideas and just interact with kids that are doing a similar project as we are to hopefully better all of the student government organizations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Conklin. And for the President's report, just one item is next week we will be meeting at the high school. At 6 p.m. we will be honoring Marie Lanfranc and dedicating the courtyard in her honor. And then it will be followed at 7 o'clock by our regular meeting. But everybody's invited to Marie's dedication if you are available. We will approve minutes next week. And now we are going to open for public comments on the agenda and any other topic at this point. So public participation shall be governed by the following. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface your comments by an announcement of your name and address. Statements are to be limited to 3 minutes duration and may only address, actually, let me scratch that, may address anything at this particular time. Participants may speak no more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard, and all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. If there's any questions or comments on anything, please come up to the podium.
Did you say agenda items only, or?
No, anything.
Okay. I'm Kathy Schwiff, editor of the Progress newspaper. I just wanted to let everybody know about our candidates forum, which is coming up Wednesday, October 12th. All 5 candidates running for the school board will be there to answer questions from residents. You can also send me questions in advance. And my email address is kschwiff, so KSHWIFF at New Jersey Hills, with an S on it. You have to spell it New Jersey, NewJerseyHills.com. Information is in the paper online, and I'll leave some of these in the back of the room in case anybody has questions. We hope you'll all come. It's at the West Caldwell Public Library, 7 p.m. on the 12th. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
Hello, Liz Hart, 149 Ravine Avenue. I have a couple of agenda item questions that I'll ask first. So, or actually one thing that's not agenda related. Thank you, Dr. Conklin, for updating the website with the board members and the committee. I really appreciate that from the last time that I was here. I did want to ask about the co-op sports program agreement that was listed under finance. So is there a cost related to that? And do we know how much that is? And is that a co-ed program, or is that just for boys? Or just for girls? I didn't mean to assume.
You mean the hockey agreement?
Yeah,
It's,
sorry.
well, it's for, I think it's a boys hockey team, but I don't know if it's limited just to boys. I think
It's co-ed.
I think it's co-ed if they
It is
want.
co-ed.
I think so. I don't think there's a boys and a girls hockey team, so the girls could try out for the boys team, or it's a universal team. I'm not.
Okay.
Can you explain whose team it is?
It's It's West Essex.
So it's
our
us in conjunction with them?
students play for West Essex hockey team
Oh, okay, because we don't have a,
because we don't have a hockey team, right?
okay. So we would fund that, or how does that?
Well, we haven't decided on anything yet.
Okay.
That's why it's on the agenda for discussion. So
Okay.
it's them offering a contract for us to
Oh, okay.
engage with them to provide that for the students.
It's been a program that's been in existence for multiple
Right.
years. So
Got
this
it.
is just a,
It's
But
just
and
a
it's
question
just
of what,
basically trying to add our school to their larger
we've been
district.
involved with them for over a decade, from what I
it's
understand.
probably about 7, 8 years.
Okay, almost a decade
Yes.
with
Okay.
them because we didn't have a hockey team, so we partnered with them. We had a few students and it got higher and higher and higher. So
Okay.
now we have an agreement that we have to sign with them to engage their services so our students can play with them. So we just have to decide on what the final dollar amount is.
Got it, understood, thank you. There was also a section in there for the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget calendar, and it said attached, but there's no attachment. I was trying to click and there's nothing to click on.
It'll be publicized. Today's a working meeting, so it's a discussion on what the timeline is. And
Okay.
as soon as we kind of finish the meeting, all the appropriate ones that are, some of the ones that are in executive, that has to do with personnel, will be published on the website. So if it doesn't go out tomorrow, it'll go out before the next vote happens.
Okay, perfect. So then I
Some
have-
things go into executive because
Yeah.
it's a working meeting, and then after the working meeting is finalized, they go out to the public.
Okay, great. So now I have non-agenda items, but should I step down and let somebody else speak, and then I can come?
Anybody have any other questions on the agenda? It's all yours.
Awesome. Okay, so there's an email that you sent out, Dr. Conklin, kind of going through the timeline to go through the new curriculum. And so I had a bunch of questions in regards to those specific dates. On October 14th, it was mentioned that there's going to be presented a draft copy to the public. And so is this essentially the same draft of curriculum that was created at the end of the summer? And if not, were there significant changes that have been made from the summer to what will be presented on October 14th?
I don't think it's substantially different because the standards are still the same.
Okay.
I think the format is probably a little bit different. We wanted to make sure it's consistent. There was inconsistency between the 6th grade, 7th through 12th grade and the elementary school format, so we wanted to make sure all the formats are lined, and then we wanted to make sure that any of the resources were in the appropriate spot. So it's not substantially different, no, but it is different.
Okay. And then will there be, well, because the one that was previously, I guess, not necessarily presented, but that was actually, I don't even know if it was really presented, but will there be anything that will highlight what the differences are?
Yeah,
from
so
what-
all the highlighted, you'll see the differences between, or instead
Well,
of differences, you'll
yeah.
see the new standards highlighted.
Right.
All of the new standards will be highlighted.
Okay. And so then for the 11-1 through 11-21 school in-person meetings, what will the actual PE and health teachers be presenting? Will they be presenting edited versions of what has happened between 10-14, or is it going to be the same thing that they're discussing?
They're gonna do more about answering questions for family members. So have
Okay.
questions about how you're gonna be discussing the standard. It's
Okay.
not necessarily gonna be directed to the curriculum. It's gonna be directed to parents saying, oh, I'm just interested in knowing how you're gonna teach about hygiene, or how you're gonna teach about this particular topic, instead of saying, hey, I saw this curriculum on page 5, what's that mean? That
Okay.
I'll be there, or the principal will be there, or the director of curriculum instruction will be there to respond to questions like that. The PE teacher, the health teacher is gonna be there specifically to talk about how the instruction is gonna look based on that standard.
Okay, so then the feedback that the general public, right, will be providing from the 14th to the 28th in the Google, forms or whatever, that is not what is going to be discussed, right?
That could inform how the discussions get presented at the meeting. Because once we get all that feedback, we'll know better really what the concerns are of the community, so we'll
Right.
be able to better address that in person, online. So if you have questions about this particular topic, we'll see a dozen questions about that. We know that's a concern, so we'll make sure we're prepared to respond to those questions.
Okay, but fundamentally, any of that, I guess really what I'm trying to get at is any of the feedback that the public will be providing from the 14th to the 28th be taken into account into what is then revised and then shared out on the 1st? Or in the meetings
There
from the
could
1st
be
to 21st?
some changes based on that. Ultimately, the standards are their standards, and they
Right.
are the ones that have to be introduced. The nature and the timelines, how they're introduced, may be something we take into account when we get feedback from the community,
Okay.
or how that's introduced, or how many days we spend on. Those are all things we can better understand once we get feedback from the community.
Okay.
But the standards can't change.
Right. So, okay. So I just try to be clear. So the standards are the standards. Obviously, we have to stick to whatever the state, mandates. The public is being allowed to provide their feedback and input. It may or probably may not impact what the standards are and what already exists.
Right,
as
we
it
can't
is.
change the standards are the standards. Their
Right.
comments can't change what the standards are.
Completely.
But it may change how we introduce those standards.
The manner in which you introduce?
The manner.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the 21st of November through December 2nd, the board, the Board Curriculum and Tech Committee is supposed to convene and discuss and review final draft. So then, when the final draft is being done or finalized, is that what will actually be?
So
What
that'll
is
go on the
distributed
board
to the
agenda in
children?
December.
Okay.
For conversation, and then we'll have more time for public input as you're doing right now for
Right.
the same thing.
Okay.
And then the board will vote on it the following week. And then it'll be adopted and implemented, hopefully at that point. And then.
On the 5th, yeah.
And then we'll provide timelines, so on the 12th. The 5th is
Oh,
the
right, sorry,
conversation, the
correct.
12th is the vote, and then there'll be conversations about if there's students who miss some standards, there'll be activities to make sure any standards that were missed from students, especially middle school, high school, will be made up, to make sure we have that set as well. So between now and then, we also have to develop a plan for that.
Okay. Understood. And then do we know any more specifics about the in-person school meetings, rather?
I don't know what you mean.
I mean the actual specific dates of when we're going to have these meetings across the schools.
No, once we send that information out on October 14th, I'll sit with all the schools, we'll develop a dates so that accommodates parents, so they can't have this. We can't have the middle school at the same time we have an elementary school.
Right.
Some parents actually have elementary students at two different schools, so we have to be cognizant of not, picking a date or time that's inconvenient, so we want to try to make it available for everyone to participate if they want. So we have to look at those dates to make sure it's not conflicting with anything that's going on at the high school, the middle school, or other things. A lot of things start happening in November too, and we're actually limited by a bunch of days that we're not here. So
Right.
there aren't actually that many days
Many
to
days.
choose from.
Right. Agreed. Okay. Thank you very much for all the extra time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Hello. Jessica Crown, 183 Forest. Just piggyback off of that. As far as the separate meetings for each school, will they be live streamed?
No.
So if there are parents who cannot attend their respective schools, they will not be able to know what the topics of discussion are. My general observation across the state, in various counties and towns, is that there are a lot of parents that don't even know about these changes, that don't know about the topics that are written within the standards. There are a lot of terms that are very inappropriate that are written within the standards for certain grade levels. And so my concern is that we're opening this up for public comment in those centralized areas for each school. Again, big concern with each school having their own meetings and not having cross-reference to different questions. Will there be, from the comments that you received from the Google Forms, maybe FAQs that are combined to release to the parents beforehand to kind of get an idea of what the concerns are from the general public?
There was no plan to do that, no.
Okay. And again, there's no timeline on the dates. Obviously, there's conflict with holidays and things like that, so there's
a lot of different activities going on in November, so.
Okay. And then as far as, again, I brought this up a couple of times in the past couple of meetings, but as far as the materials that are going to be used, is there any kind of disclaimer to the parents as far as what resources we're going to be using, websites, because there are some websites that are out there that are also recommended from the state where there is zero censorship, that any child of any age can access any grade level. So is there anything, any control in place for that?
The resources and materials will be presented by the teacher.
Okay. Will that be presented to the parents?
At the meeting, and then you'll know what resources are going to be used as part of the lesson.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Everyone, Carl Otterbein, 11 Boxwood Drive. I just kind of have one question: is it necessary that this be an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in? And the reason I ask this is because I think we have a lot of, I don't want to say willful ignorance with this, but there's a lot of people who have no clue what's going on with it. I went through and I read over 400 pages of the state's recommended curriculum for this, and this is stuff I wouldn't have even spoke about in college, because I probably would have been arrested. And what I want to know is there anything stopping this board from making this opt-in as opposed to opt-out? Because I believe, as this young lady said before, there's a lot of parents who just don't even know that this is going on. So their children will sit, they will have to listen to this, and there's a lot of stuff that, you know, I have reams and reams of stuff in here that just, I don't think is appropriate for, I mean, high schoolers, let alone 5th graders, 3rd graders. I have a kid in kindergarten who's going to be learning things that I didn't even think about until I was 16, 17, 18 years old. So is it possible for this board to make this opt-in as opposed to opt-out? I don't know if there's a state standard or if there's something that is around that, but I think that will bring more parents into the fold. More parents will have to read what they're allowing their children to do the same way you would if you read a permission slip to go on to go out on any sort of recess activity that would be outside of the school. So I would consider, hopefully the board might be able to consider something of that nature. Thank you.
Quickly come back up real quick. Has there been any discussion?
Sorry, you have to just repeat
Oh, I'm
your
sorry,
name.
Jessica Crown, 183 Forest. Has there been any discussion or any kind of behind-the-scenes action as far as the legal ramifications for teachers in having these discussions with these children? Because, as Mr. Otterbein just said, there are contents within the standards that if anybody, any stranger had any kind of conversation like that with my child on any topic, you know, these things are not even safe for work. And it's safe for school all of a sudden. So it's very concerning. So I guess that's more of just a comment, but also has there been any discussion with any kind of legal team to discuss what could potentially happen? Is a teacher going to lose their job for having an inappropriate conversation or being put in a position where, and even for the child, then even more so for the child? Has there been any kind of?
I'm not really sure what your question is. There's no legal ramifications for teaching the state standards. So as long as we're sticking to the state standards and that's what the teachers are teaching.
So the contents within in that discussion does not conflict with any other law regarding minors and sexual content?
If they're adopted state standards, they couldn't conflict with the law.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay, if not, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter public session, executive session. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. Upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools and upon the motion, we are going to enter executive session. Brian, take a roll.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Against, nay? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Thank you for coming, everybody.